Hi guys, welcome again to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be making a U-part wig for my client. So before we start this video, I'm going to be showing you all the equipment I'm going to be using. We'll be using a canvas head, our zoom cap, a thread, and pins. Those are the pins I'm going to be using to guide me while I'm sewing. I'm going to be using my thread and needle, scissors, and this is the hair after I colored. So we'll be going straight to the sewing process. So now I'm just putting my zoom cap on my canvas, and now I'll be using my thread and the bundles to start the process. So before I started sewing the bundles, I took my client's measurement already, the measurement of her head. And so I already did the measurement on the zoom cap. And now the lines you see on the zoom cap, I'm just going to be sewing my bundles on that line. It's a guide, so I can sew my bundles directly on the lines. So I'll just be maintaining the lines as I sew. So now I'm using my thread and needle and my bundle, and I start sewing just a little above the zoom cap. That's like at the nape of my client's hair. Where I start sewing, that's like the nape of my client's hair. So I start sewing from there. So I'm just going to be sewing across, and when I reach to the very end, I'm just going to do the flip over method. I'm not going to cut the bundles. I'm just going to be doing the flip over method. And if you want to see my sew-in methods, like what I do to get a flat sew-in, just keep watching the videos so that you will not get to cut your client's bundles. So I have my method I use to achieve a very flat sew-in, so I don't have to cut out the webs. So watch the video as you see the method. So now I'll just keep sewing, and I'll be doing the flip over method right until I get right to the very top. As you're sewing, don't forget to knot your thread so as to give a proper secure to the hair so it won't unravel. Wherever you think it needs to be secure, just make sure to tie your thread around that area just so it can get a proper secure for the wig. As you watch the video, you can now see the use of the pins. I'm just using the pins to pin down the bundles on the canvas head so that it will help me to sew. When I do this process, it's easier for me to sew along. So at the beginning of the video, I told you I have a method which I'll be showing you how to sew your wigs and make it lay really flat. So here is the method I'm about to do. So when I reach right to the end, I'm just going to use only one web. As you can see in the video, I'm using just one web while I leave the other web. So I'm sewing just one web now and I'm securing the end. Then I'm going to flip that one. I'm just going to flip the bundles. As I'm flipping the web, you can see right now I'm sewing just a single web. So I will keep sewing the single web, and now I'm adding the second web to it. So those are the two webs I'm sewing now. So the second web, I start sewing almost in the middle of the canvas head. So in that way, the ends is going to lay really flat, because if I use both bundles, if I use both webs to sew on the side, it's going to make the side bulky. So that's why when I reach to the side, I'm just going to drop down one of the webs and I continue sewing with just one web. And when I'm done sewing, I knot the ends, then I flip over the method. When I flip over, I'm just going to flip over and I sew just the single web. As I sew and I'm going further, then I'm going to combine the next web and I sew together, so that in that way the sides will lay really flat. Hope you understand what I'm trying to say. While I was recording, I noticed at this point that I lost a clip, and that's the end of the clip where I was creating the U part. I really wanted you guys to see how I achieved the U part, but I couldn't find that clip. But what I did in this process, where you don't see the webs, I just took my scissors and I cut in between the dome cap so I could make the U part. So once you cut that part, you're just going to create the U part. And when you create the U part, you want to make sure that you take your thread and needle and you sew all around, just so you can secure the dome cap, maybe from tearing further. But that's what I did in that process. And now I just use some water and my leave-in conditioner, and I spray on the hair, and I'm just brushing it out so I can define the coils. And voila, that's the end of the video. If you watch up to this point, guys, I hope you learned something. You learned how to make a U-part wig. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.